Hello and welcome to the Majestic Chat episode 18. So they were just reminding me that it's 18 now. Wow, we have a whole season. And you know, if you watch the previous videos, I do that every single time. Like, what episode is this? Pretty soon we're gonna be like, who cares? Just talk. My name is Chris Allen. Luke's over there laughing at me. My name is Chris Allen. I am a published author, a minister with the Fellowship of the Phoenix, and among other things, teacher, explorer, things like that. I would like to introduce Laura Gonzalez next. Laura, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. How are you? I am Laura Gonzalez. I'm a priestess of the goddess. I am a minister in training with the Ministers in Training program with Circle Sanctuary. I am a Reiki master teacher. I am a podcast diva. I am a witch for hire. Pew, pew. And I do some other things. And among those things is talking. And I love to be here on this video blog with you all. And I will introduce the other part of the Brady Bunch. Look.
Hi,
Introduce yourself, please. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name's Luke Babb. I use they, them pronouns. I am a hard polytheist, devotional spirit worker, jack of all trades magically. I write for the Wild Hunt weekly column, and I get into trouble with these guys. And this week, I know we are talking about the magic of the Darktide, which I wasn't really sure what we meant when we were talking about that. Chris, do you wanna sort of start us off, point us in the right direction?
I do. So we purposely made it kind of general because I kind of wanted to go back to our first few episodes where we're just expressing ourselves and talking, because we don't have a guest host this week. So I wanted to chat about it, especially through our different perspectives. I'll start. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, then you are in the what we call the dark time of the year, and it depends upon who you ask and what tradition, because some hardcore Celts are like, no, it's at Samhain, that's the dark time. Well, I'm in Chicago and it's at about 6 o'clock. It was pretty dark, so to me that's the dark time. So for me, the dark what time is always fall through spring, you know. But what does that mean? What happens? So we just had the fall equinox, and we're not having that conversation. But we are talking about Samhain. We're going to talk about what if we do during the dark time, especially now during quarantine and COVID, and how that's changed and what that looks like. Laura, I think you had some ideas that you wanted to share. Tell us about what the dark tide means to you.
Okay, how much time do we have?
You got 2 seconds. Go.
Oops, it's dark. I love it because some people think, oh, because we're witches, you know, everything we do is dark and blah, blah. And I think if we go back in time where if you're an earth-based religion practitioner, all the holidays are supposedly based on the agricultural calendar. And so the reason why we have summer vacation is not so we can go to the beach. It's supposed to be summer vacation so people could go to their farms and harvest and do the work. And that's why even like schools used to have summer vacation, because the whole family will go to the farm and harvest. And then after that is a time of, first is bounty, because you just have harvest. But then is the darkness, and it's like going inside, and you don't go out anymore because it starts getting dark early. and people used to work with the rhythms of nature. And nowadays, obviously, we still follow this calendar. We're not an agricultural society anymore. But what I love about neo-paganism is how we live through the metaphors and the mysticism, and how we reinvent those metaphors and they apply to our lives. So harvest time, what are you harvesting after the summer? And then as we go into withdrawal because of the dark times, what are we taking with us? What is this um, feast that we have from our first harvest? And then what are the things, what are the animals that we are going to have to slaughter before winter? So whatever animals are left come with us. Metaphorically speaking, obviously, we're not killing anybody. But I think it's quite important that even though we still live in modern times where fake light and electricity and all this wonderful technology that connects us now, we kind of have lost touch with the season, and it is a season to slow down. Unfortunately, now people get SAD, right, the seasonal affective disorder. But if you think about it, they get it because we're supposed to slow down. We're supposed to chill and cool off a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying people that have it shouldn't have it. I'm not a doctor. But what I'm saying is, you know, generally speaking, we're supposed to slow down and kind of like reflect on what we harvest and etc. So again, I don't want to take the whole show reflecting on things, but that was kind of my idea on
Yeah.
the theme.
Cool. So what I would like to talk about at this point is what's happening, what are we doing, and how are we honoring? So for myself, anybody who has spent any time with me or anything knows that I'm all about the ancestors, and there are some traditions who um, they they symbolically honor the ancestors all the time in their thoughts and prayers, but they don't actually celebrate them and honor them and give them offerings all the time. A lot of some traditions that do it at Samhain, um, and you know that's because you know to the ancients the world seemed to die. You know the leaves would fall off, the winter winds would and would come and all the animals would hibernate. So that makes sense. And that was a time of death. What's confusing to me about that is it's kind of like I honor my ancestors every single day. I talk to them, I pray to them, I journey with them, I give them offerings. However, if you come see my house, you would think I have someone here every day with the skulls and bones and la 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 and all that stuff. But anyway, that being said, there are, you know, it is kind of fun to see the whole, not the whole world, the northern hemisphere honor the dead and things like that. Speaking of of cold wintry places, Luke, why don't you tell us about some of the heathen traditions that I know they don't have a Samhain, but I know, and I believe it's October. There's the blood moon, and can you tell us about that and what that's for? And do modern heathens celebrate that? And if they do, what does that look like?
I'm going to be here for a second. Okay. So, I mean, unpopular opinion time. I don't really like resonate with the idea of darkness through this part of the season,
You're
right?
fired.
I know. Gotta turn in my pagan badge. Gotta gotta break my robe and wizard staff and bury my books 5 fathoms deep, right? But no, I like the winter months. I really like fall. but especially this year, as like we've been inside for a lot of it. I don't know about the rest of you, but like I've been inside for a lot of it. I've been sort of not able to experience summer in a lot of the ways that I usually do. It doesn't really feel like moving into a darker time. It really just feels like like I am feeling some of the like the equinoxes pass and like feeling the effects of those. And some of the themes that you were talking about, Laura, about like planting and tending and harvesting. But having grown up in like in a farm, having been like really tied to the agricultural seasons, since I've moved to the city, a lot of that has sort of fallen out of my practice. Um, and especially like you were saying, Chris, having a more robust practice with like, for me, I would say like underworld deities. The whole idea of like the dead being more prevalent in this time of the year, or like I do notice certain deities sort of like picking up and like being like, all right, it's time to play. But I don't really get a lot of the like, this is a darker time. Um, so that's my background and baggage around this. In terms of the heathens, uh, you know, I'm not here to make friends. There is no such thing as the heathen wheel of the year.
Correct.
It
Yep.
doesn't exist. It's any wheel of the year that any heathen tries to sell you is just the Gardnerian wheel of the year with some names knocked off.
Mhm.
We do have a few historically like backed up celebrations that have been roughly mapped onto the wheel of the year by some people. A lot of those people are not really people that I share practice with. And it's different depending on basically your local tradition, like whatever tradition of heathenry you're a part of. That's going to really inform how you map the wheel of the year. The ones that we do have that have a little bit more background are around Christmas and the New Year. So like there is something that's a lot that's like called Mother's Night a lot of the time, or Motherless Night, which is about essentially our female ancestors. That's almost at the exact same time as Christmas or New Year's. But this time of the year, like ask 5 heathens, you'll get 6 answers. And I think for me, this time of the year, like with heathenry in general, with my practice in general, really has to be founded in like my own understanding of what's going on in the world and what's going on not just in like the natural world but in our world, right? So as I'm thinking about like when I saw the name of today's episode and moving into the Darktide, right? I was like, I really hope not, because what we're about to reap is the election.
Mhm.
That's what's coming into what's coming into fruition, right? That's what we're about to like see, what we've planted and how it comes out. And that is where I'm spending a lot of my preparations, right? I'm setting up stock and making sure that I have what I need for whatever happens then.
Mhm.
Um, and that's, you know, not a sexy magical answer. But I think that a lot of especially traditional paganism, I think is very much about like practicality. Um, how do we survive? How do we connect with our people? How do we get meaning from the world that we live in?
Mhm.
Um, and that's as I think about the oncoming winter, in which we will have so many fewer resources than we usually do. Right? We won't be able to see our friends. We won't be able to have big celebrations. We won't be able to go to like events. Um, that's really where I'm putting my energy and focus in preparation.
Hmm.
And that's sort of how I'm thinking about like moving into this part of the year.
You know, there's something to be said about the whole tribal idea of it, winter time, that similar to what Laura was saying. I mean, you stay within the family, and this was a time of storytelling. This was a time of making your magical tools. Indoor projects, and the reason I mentioned um, your tribal tools is because, you know, there's no power tools, there's no Home Depot, and if you've ever made tools from hand, especially a native American Chinooka, a sacred pipe, which I have, it takes you about 4 weeks because you take a little blade and you carve the rock, and it takes forever. So I completely understand why the Native American people would do their tool making in the winter time. Although, yes, you made your tools as you needed them. But anyway, so what's interesting to me about this year is that there's going to be a natural hibernation, I think, from a whole lot of people. But I don't think that means that we won't have celebrations. I think celebrations doesn't have to have um, 10, 12 people. It can be you and your household, or you and a friend who you're quarantining with, or you can also do Zoom. And I've done one of the things I found that is very interesting is doing online Zoom ceremonies. Um, I've done some full moons. I've done some dark moons, and it's not the same. Trust me, it's not the same as being present with your kindred and with your family and friends during Magic. However, lot of my circle is all over the U.S. now, and so there's like half of us are here, and the other half is in California or in Boston, and blah blah blah. So to get everyone on Zoom for a ceremony, it was like, yay, we haven't done this in like 4 years altogether. This is amazing. And it was very interesting. Um, the other thing that I'm hearing is that, so for Halloween, and I celebrate Halloween. I don't understand pagans who are like, no, don't celebrate. It's too commercial. I'm like, yeah, it's commercial. It's awesome. I love it. Like all the haunted houses, candy, trick or treating, all of it. The bars, I don't care. But they're not open. At least not all of them. But anyway, I mean, there's all types of fun things that you can do for yourself. And if anyone's watching who's a parent, and I know that there are some parents here, um, you know, what I find, kids just want to dress up and eat candy, and if you do that, I think you're good. you know, um, but I also, one of the things that I personally uh, do at this time of year is I do a lot of cleansing and banishing, because it's in the fall season. So we're reaping things we're letting go, because um, fall and harvest isn't just about, oh, what can I harvest to myself. It's also what's old and needs to be cut away. So I think that's an interesting topic, because one of the things that we do as a society is that we hold on to things that we don't need. I mean, we hold on to material things, we hold on to jobs, we hold on to people, we hold on to all types of things. And I teach my students, and Laura kind of want you to chime in here in a second. I teach my students that we need to start to like look at our lives and say what needs to be chopped off, what needs to be reaped. You need to take that sickle and cut it out, you know, and think, and that's an act of magic. But the important thing that I teach the students is, if you try to do your ceremonies and your rituals, even if it's long seasonal, like I celebrate fall, whatever that means to you. I celebrate winter, spring, so forth. The more you're in tune with the cycles of nature, by the time you get to fall, things automatically begin to fall away. Like, to be honest, I've been a pagan for almost 30 years, and I don't have to do a ceremony. It just falls away by itself. And it's not that I'm all powerful. It's just that my consciousness is so geared to spring, planting the seeds, put things in motion. Summer, allow things to grow, prepare for the harvest. Harvest. What am I taking in, and then what am I reaping? And sometimes, unfortunately, it is people, and that's bad people. Just sometimes people are only on your path a short time, and it's time to let them go, and that's okay. It doesn't make them bad people. It just means they're not congruent to your spiritual path. So, Laura, what's your take? Because I know you have thoughts.
A lot of it. First of all, like you said earlier, we're not going to get into the controversy.
What's the controversy? What?
His name is Look. Their name is Look. Controversies.
I have never heard anything controversial about the fall equinox, and y'all keep being like the controversy, and I'm like,
okay, I said I'm not gonna get into that. The wheel of the year. It's funny because the wheel of the year, as Gardner put it together, right? We are in 2020. Wicca is what, 60 years old, 70, whatever. Paganism is about what, 5,000 years old or so. Neo-pagan.
I think we lost Laura for a second. That's okay. She can jump on here in a second. She's been having internet problems. That's one of the weird things about having a video blog. Okay, so Abin, just real quick for Luhuk and our audience, and to wonder what's going on with that. So I was trained the Wheel of the Year and at the fall.
Can we say?
She almost got in, cut out again. She probably doesn't even realize she's frozen. It's kind of funny. But anyway, and so there's really no historical backing for the term Mabon. And so the controversy, the controversy is that we have found that the ancient pagans really didn't celebrate a fall equinox. However, I like to celebrate it because I like the first day of fall. The first day of fall is when the sun goes into Libra. In my personal magical practice, I incorporate some astrology, so I think it's cool. So, Laura, you cut out, and so I was just filling the time with the controversy.
Thank you. And honestly, I was really let's not even go. My point being, to the point.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no. Oh no. For points
today. Okay, so she'll figure that out. This has never happened. It's because we're talking about the controversy. The spirits are like, no, don't talk. Oh,
listen, we have talked about much more intensive things than whatever is going on with the autumn equinox.
I know, right? So, but anyway, as I was saying before, I'm just going to talk about that. About letting things fall away. Is she back?
Nope, not yet.
Almost. There's a Buddhist practice that some of the monks would do, that every so often they would have a rebirthing of their spirit in consciousness, because you know how they practice for non-attachment, and non-attachment, if you don't know, just it doesn't mean that I don't care about things. It's just I'm not attached to them in such a way that it prevents me from doing what I need to spiritually. So what they do, the Buddhists, is they'll um, do a ceremony, and they'll release energetically, physically, spiritually all perceived attachments, issues, psychological things, and they believe that through this sacred ceremony, they're reborn anew, so that their aspect of their identity is actually um, brand new. So they believe that they are literally a brand new person every time they do this. Well, which makes sense to me, because whenever you leave a job, or you leave a relationship, or you leave a friend, or you move, you become a new person. You become different. I mean, it changes you, you know. Laura, are you back?
I hope so. I'm calling from my phone, and I had to do this yesterday on another meeting because just my, I don't know if it's my computer
Yeah.
or if it's the internet, but anyway, I'm back. And for the love of goddess, can I please talk about not talking about the controversy? Okay, here I go. Um, I was saying, beside the controversy, which apparently Chris already talked about, um, first of all, I myself, I don't speak for anybody else. I like to be part of a earth-based religion. And as a person who is part of an earth-based religion, what is the most important part of my religion is the cycles of the earth, right? Equinoxes, solstices, and summer and fall and winter and all of that beautiful stuff. And whether the wheel of the year was invented as we know it by Gardner, or the seasons created in whatever time by whomever decided to call them seasons, I don't know that. Um, I think it's to me is really important to observe the seasons and to utilize again the metaphors that our ancient pagan peoples lived by. Um, I often tell my students, you know, back in the day they used to pray to Apollo so the sun could come around the earth once again. And now we know the sun don't go anywhere, is the earth that rotates and goes around the sun. And for some people, Apollo is an archetype or a metaphor or a god. I mean, to each their own. But whether the wheel is ancient or whether you observe the seasons and or the wheel, I think it's really important to observe the seasons and to learn from the earth and to learn, as you were saying, Chris, about letting go and how it kind of becomes natural. So one thing I do a lot, and I guess it's good I'm on the phone because then you can see me doing the arm thing, is you open your arms to receive your friends, family, things, or whatever that you bring into your life. And with the same gusto, with the same happiness, you open your arms to let them go. And this is what nature is teaching us right now. I mean, as cliches go, or cutesy or nerd things is, look at the trees. You know, the trees just let go of the leaves, and then that covers the earth, and she goes into a slumber, and then everything is renewed again. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's really poetic, and I think it's really one of the biggest lessons in life. It comes on the fall. And before I get cut off again, another thing that I want to say is with COVID, and you know, a lot of people, we've lost a lot of human lives, but we have also lost a way of life, and a way of life that I guess it wasn't necessary. we have learned that so many things can be done online, and we're polluting less, we are traveling less, we are doing less stuff because we've been forced to focus on priorities. And I have this illness that is called optimism, and I have to turn it, I have to turn it into a good thing, and I think it's a good thing. Um, the Spanish pagan community, this is it. This is all we had for a long time was internet. And to see the Anglo pagan community now turning into that, for some folks is really easy and it has become natural. For some folks it's really hard, but it's not gonna be forever. We have to keep the faith. Hello. We have to keep the faith. And this too shall pass. And to borrow from the other religion. And the good thing is you will prioritize your time on these celebrations, whether it's harvest and abundance and gratitude, Thanksgiving or winter celebrations, Yule, Christmas, or whatever you call the celebrations. Halloween. Who don't celebrate Halloween, by the way? What's wrong with you?
Oh my
Um,
God. I know some hardcore pagans are like, October 31st is not a day. It was blah, blah, blah. And then it's commercialized and la, la, la. And I'm like, but that's what makes it fun. It's horror movies and really weird costumes and scaring people. I love it.
I'm gonna borrow a phrase from Byron Ballard because A, I love her, and B, she's full of truth. She often says, and I'm paraphrasing here, she says, don't you have land to tend and ancestors to pray to and magic to do? Like, we are so caught up on all this bullshit. I'm sorry, I had to say it. The name of the holiday, if it's to celebrate, if it's not to celebrate, can we have fun? And can we honor the ancestors, and can we honor the earth, and can we just live our spirituality and connect with the divine? And I mean, all this is too much now. It's too much. Like, yes, Halloween is one holiday. Halloween is a party, secular, and then you have Samhain, and then you have Day of the Dead. Three different things, completely different things.
I love it.
Do your thing, but why do we have to be policing everybody? Is it Maven? Is not Maven? Is it Equinox? Ay, my goodness. Go have fun. Yeah, no estén chingando.
I don't know what you said, but apparently it was bad. I find that there are some people who really look for historical validation, like their ceremony is correct, or their ritual is right, or their holiday is correct. And there is a heathen, and I try to remember his name. I think I talked to you guys about him before. He had asked me to come to, I think, a bloat or something, and he was
I know exactly who
yes,
you're talking about.
he's a reconstructionalist, and it was so funny because I mean, for what he knows what he knows, and he would go on talking about how those people who celebrate Yule on the solstice, that's a bunch of crap. How dare you disrespect your ancestors? Like, just on and on. And I'm thinking, well, when our family and friends are celebrating the birth of Christ, why can't pagans celebrate Yule at the same time? Why does it have to be like, who gives a rat's ass? Like, who?
So I have some feelings here. So like, I think that there is something really valuable in grounding your practice in tradition, if that means something to you, right?
Sure.
If you want to feel a connection to the practices of your ancestors, and the way that you do that is through research and like getting as close to what they would have actually done as possible, then that's a beautiful way of connecting, right? I am not here to say that that is not a very valid path. It is. I know a bunch of reconstructionalists. Some of them are very lovely people. And like, I have enough books behind me, right? Like this whole shelf is just like pagan stuff, right? I do a lot of research about my practice. Um, I don't have any stones to throw there. I think that when it becomes a problem is when it gets in the way of you actually connecting to a spiritual path, and
Mhm.
instead becomes a fun research thing in and of itself, where you need to feel right
Right.
more than you need to feel connected,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
like, and I think I see you, Laura. But to your point, Chris, I think that part of the like connection that we're talking about, um, one, I think it's very debatable whether most Americans are celebrating the birth of Christ on December 25th. I think they might just be celebrating, and that's fine.
That's fine.
Um,
Absolutely.
and like, I think that there's something really cool about this movement towards wanting to celebrate with instead of wanting to celebrate against, right? Oh, they
I
have
like that.
that thing, so we have to have this thing. Um, Instead, having the ability to have a truly like united experience. So I think Halloween's a great example of that. Like pagans can be doing pagan stuff alongside people who are doing just Halloween stuff. And those two things can exist in pretty perfect harmony.
I think
Um,
so.
yeah. And like nobody's going to be, I mean, somebody's always going to be, oh, you're doing it wrong. But I don't think that that's the thing in and of itself. I'm sorry, Laura. I know you wanted to say something.
That's exactly the thing. Like, look, if you want to research and read a billion books and do exactly like the ancestors did, go for it. In my opinion, to be a reconstructionist, you will have to go live in a mountain with no electricity, no internet, and you will, if you were an Aztec reconstructionist, you will be perforating your penis with the thorns of a rose, and then that's how you enter an altered state of mind. So
Sure it is.
to me,
Yeah, I don't want
reconstructionism
to do that.
is really hard, right? So I wouldn't do that. Now you wanna learn, you wanna research, you wanna do your thing, fine. If you're a Wiccan and you wanna be a Garnerian and you wanna be an ordained initiated Garnerian and follow the path and da da da, it's wonderful because that conserves and keeps and preserves the traditions. That is amazing. They have to be preserved. They have to be conserved. It's like what I was telling you all a few shows before about Voodoo, Hoodoo, Ifa, and all that, that I appreciate when it's preserved with respect. My four magical words. You do you, boo, because if you do your research, if you're a reconstructionist, if you do blah, 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 that's you. My problem, huge, huge problem, is when you go, no, you look, anybody, royal you. When you go to somebody else and tell them, that's not how is it done. That's my huge problem. So if we have umbrella term pagans, neo-pagans, heathens, Asatrus, Wiccans, witches, BTW, whatever, and one wants to call it this and the other one wants to call it that and blah blah, but we all celebrating, what is the problem? You do you, boo. You celebrate the way you do. I'm going to celebrate the way I do. And you cannot tell me, listen to what I'm saying, you cannot tell somebody that they are doing their spirituality wrong. You just can't. It's like you're telling them you're growing your hair wrong. It's not about you, and there is not a wrong way. Calm down, Laura. That's the one thing. The other thing is we do not live in pagan world. We do not live in a vacuum. Um, I have a grandson. I have a stepdaughter. My stepdaughter is Christian. My grandson is growing Catholic. I have a husband who claims to be agnostic but talks to the goddess when I go crazy. Um, and what better way to find common ground than, for example, Halloween, Day of the Dead, Samhain, or Christmas, or, but for that matter, um, what do they call Pascua? The Easter, right? Ostara. Uh, those are good places where you can find that common ground, and then you can talk. I use those opportunities to talk to my grandson and to just let him know, like, there's other ways to celebrate. There is not only the one way that you're being taught at school, because he goes to a Catholic school. One year he came back with a paper saying these are the winter holidays, and he had um, Christmas and the Christkindl, whatever, and Chinese New Year. And I said to him, "Oh, there's also winter solstice." And he said to me, "I'm gonna go back and tell my teacher she's missing winter solstice." And I'm like, "No, don't tell your teacher, but I'm telling you." So I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just too passionate about not telling people how to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you make some good points, and I think all of those things, all of those holidays and things, at least for me, along with they they check off a few different boxes for me. The first thing is that community. So for with your order, with your circle, with your temple, with your church, or whatever, but then also the greater community about people, because I'm not a big fan of the whole buy a bunch of presents on Christmas thing. I just think it's weird, but it is fun to see decorations. It is fun to see people at least try to be happy, around the holidays. But the other thing is that these are kind of checkpoints for me to to go within or without spiritually. Like, so, for example, when I get to Samhain, one of the things I do, because I talk to the ancestors all the time. I don't have to make a huge deal about that. But I think that's an excellent opportunity to do some shadow work and things. The things I will say about shadow work, there's some good books on shadow work, like meditations and things like that. There's some very basic books that don't really crack the surface. And then there's some times where you're doing shadow work that you may need, and in conjunction with your magical practice with shadow work, see a therapist and stuff. And the only reason I put that out there is because I've seen a therapist. Everyone I've ever known ever has seen a therapist, and I don't want there to be anything taboo about it, anything that feels less than. Because for me, one of the things that therapist does, it helps you. Well, they ask you certain questions to go deeper into your own stream of thought and consciousness, but they also are a sounding board. How many times have you talked about something halfway through, we're just like, oh yeah, I know the answer to that, or I know what I'm trying to say, But my point is that the dark time of year is a great time to work with the shadow, however that manifests for you. And I am a firm believer. People ask me all the time, people on Facebook, online, Twitter, like, Chris, how do I find the right shadow work book for me? How do I find the right spell book for me? How do I find the right book on anything for me? You know what I tell them? I say, so light a candle, light your incense, and whatever you call divine, ask them to direct you to the right thing for you at this moment. And I'm not going to say it's foolproof, but a lot of times the feedback I get from that is a few weeks later, like, oh my God, I did that. And I just happened to be on Amazon and I just found this cool book. Or a friend out of the blue said, hey, I read this awesome book, check it out, and things like that. So, um, my point is that don't be afraid to do the shadow work. Don't be afraid to take a good look at yourself and your demons, or your personal demons and things like that. You know, I say demons, and I swear I'm going to get an email. Will you teach me to conjure demons? How much magical background do you have? Oh, I don't have any. Oh, okay.
Well, so Chris,
Yes.
let's I mean, just because I know we've got people from all different like levels uh following us, can you tell us what shadow work is? Like, what do you
Good
mean?
question. Good question. So, shadow work, how I interpretate it, is is a psychological frame to where um, you take a look at your shadow self. The shadow self meaning the thinkings about yourself, your conscious, your subconscious, hopes, fears that are keeping you from spiritually evolving. So, what that means is that your a shadow work can certainly be working on addictions. It certainly can be working on past trauma. That's why I say if you need to see a therapist, there's no shame in that. However, shadow work can also be working on those aspects of your consciousness that have, like, for example, old habits, character traits that no longer suit you. So, for example, um, I'm just throwing it as an example. I know this sounds kind of trite and he it doesn't correct the surface, but if you are the type that are the worst procrastinator in the world and you never get things done on time, then I would do some shadow work on that. However, I'm just throwing it out there as an example. I know people are like, procrastination, what? No, no, I mean, there's other things. I tend to do shadow work through a shamanic point of view, meaning I will. Okay, so this. How do I make a long story short? So I believe that when you journey into the underworld, it is it is a real place, absolutely, but the structure of the underworld is individual to you based on your consciousness and sub and subconsciousness. Um, you know I keep going for back to Buddhism here, but the Buddhist Book of the Dead talks about this, how your consciousness shapes what the underworld looks like. That being said, when you see frightening things or demons or monsters, what's happening is it is a it can be a construct of the shadow work that you need to do. So, for example, I'm just going to say addiction. If you have addictive behaviors, it may manifest in the underworld as blank, a demon, a monster, maybe even a god or something. That being said, not all monsters you see in the underworld are constructs of your own psyche. Sometimes they're actual beings. So, for example, if you go down to um, Helheim and you meet Hela, I believe that you are actually talking to the goddess Hela. I don't think it's a construct. I think it's her. However, if you see a strange creature on the way on the way that challenges you, especially challenge your emotions or brings up past trauma, then that's probably a a, a subconscious construct trying to teach you how to spiritually evolve. Now, that being said, I personally believe that you will always find those things, find the shadow work creatures on the way to the goddess, because I feel to really connect with her, you have to you have to work on yourself. However, that doesn't mean if you haven't done shadow work, you still can't have a powerful connection with the gods. I'm saying as you do the shadow work, your connection with all the gods, all the ancestors, all the fae, whoever, will only become deeper and more meaningful. That's why a lot of, I'm gonna give away a secret. That's why a lot of initiations have some aspect of the shadow to purify you. So if you're doing a ceremony and they start to bring out a skull in the cauldron, be, be scared because that's part of the fun. Just go with it, but also be excited because you're going to do some shadow stuff so that you can have a deeper connection with the gods.
And
In a nutshell.
I would like to add real quickly from, as you were saying, from the psychological point of view, um, to my understanding, on the shadows, not only you find the demons or those things that you have to integrate into your personality, but also you also find qualities and skills and attributes.
Mhm.
And the majority of the times, those things that your family, friends, or the good folk that raise you tell you that was not good thing and you shouldn't be doing because blah blah blah, turn out to be your best qualities and characteristics. For example, I they used to tell me all the time, you talk too much and you shouldn't be talking. And guess what? I now made a career out of talking. So there you go. Uh,
You're not
so
the only one that they say, oh, you shouldn't talk, you shouldn't have a show, you have a stutter. I'm like,
right, and don't be afraid of doing shadow work. Don't be afraid of going in the dark right now, and don't be afraid of going to the dark this year, because this year, yes, it's come with very many challenges, but I promise you, there are tons of diamonds waiting for you to discover, because this year you have worked harder than any other year, and you've survived and you make it. So harvest, have your feast, and plunge into the darkness and go find your rewards because they're there. And don't be afraid, you know. And on a side note, you know me, I get passionate about things and then I say 4 words in Spanish, but because it's important to me to share that truly the core of my belief is your spirituality and your connection with your shadow self, with your dark goddess, with your luminous goddess, with your being as wonderful as it is between you and the divine. Study if you want, follow a tradition if you want, be as traditional, be as strict as you need to be if that's what you want, but don't you ever, ever, ever let anybody tell you how to live your spirituality.
and there you have it. um, Luke, did you have any parting words for us?
I mean, I think we kind of touched on a lot of different things this week especially. And I think sort of what I'm left holding is this idea that, like, as long as your practice is serving you towards, I don't know if I would say spiritual evolution, but like towards being a better version of yourself, being a bigger version of yourself is how I often think of it. Um, I recently like read a book that talked about it as the path of courage that always seeks to make you uh, the best version of yourself that you can be right now. Um, Whatever that path looks like is fine. And like, I think what we're talking about a lot tonight is that path of courage. Like, it is not a question of avoiding the parts of yourself that you don't like or pretending that they don't exist. It is a question of seeking them out,
Mm.
and constantly engaging with them on the path to what you need. And I think that is a thing that gives me a lot of strength and courage right now, as the world is scary and difficult, to know that those are the things that I need to look at and engage with, um, in order for us to have a chance of being better.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for that. On that note, I think this would be a good time to wrap up. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. And if you're on Amazon, iTunes, and Spotify, thank you for listening. I'm wondering how many people are on the treadmill right now listening to us talk about the dark tide. That'll be awesome. One can dream. So if you haven't already, like our Facebook page of Mystic Chat, and like us on YouTube. And we will see you all very soon.